We have a very special guest with us today for e-learning. And I'd like to introduce him. Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. Kermit, how's been all these weeks at home been for you? Time's fun when you're having flies. And so, well, we always say time flies when you're having fun, but I guess it is the other way these days. And so Kermit and I would like to sing a very special song for you today. Kermit, why are there so many songs about rainbows? Kermit, that's not the song we were going to sing. Remember, we were going to sing the special song about e-learning and how you can do your math during e-learning and it'll help you get through it. And that's the one we were going to sing today, okay? Can we sing that one? Okay, so we're going to sing a new song for you. I think you'll recognize the tune. Son, I've made a life out of grading people's papers, knowing what the grades were by the way they showed their work. And if you don't mind me saying, I can see you're out of patience for 2 points extra credit. I'm gonna give you some advice. You got to listen to your mama. Stay away from drama. Help out your family and do all your work. You never touch your face. If you haven't washed your hands yet, there'll be time enough for Fortnite when e-learning's done. Every student knows that the secret to surviving is knowing not to use Mathway or even photomath. 'Cause a problem's more than answer. It's a journey to arrival, and the best that you can hope for is to learn a little bit. You got to listen to your mama. Stay away from drama. Help out your family and do all your work. You never touch your face. If you haven't washed your hands yet, there'll be time enough for Fortnite when e-learning's done. Sing it, Kermit, by yourself. There'll be time enough for Fortnite when e-learning's done. Happy Friday, everybody. And we are so glad that Kermit the Frog was able to join us for that video introduction. After we shot that video, I asked him, I said, do you ever see Miss Piggy anymore? And he said, well, you know, it just never worked out. Something about commitment. But Kermit still seems really happy, you know, and I just can't figure out why Kermit the Frog is always happy. And then it finally dawned on me that Kermit the Frog is always happy because he eats whatever bugs him. And one last thing, do you know what Kermit the Frog and Winnie the Pooh have in common? They both have the same middle name. And so, hey, this looks like it's going to be great weather this weekend, and so hopefully you'll be able to enjoy some of that. But make sure we got e-learning today, and fill out your attendance form, and then we're going to show you what we have in store. Math competition, Final Four at 3:15 today. Make sure you log in a little bit early, maybe 3, and then make sure you have pencil, paper, and calculator ready. We could go to the finals. We've never been this far. And so this is exciting. No matter how it goes, don't get mad if, you know, something, you miss one, or if you think something not quite right. Just do our best, and we've really enjoyed this. And so we've come all the way. There's the bracket. We made it all the way down to the final four. And so pretty exciting. So if you get your e-learning done and the weather's nice and you go outside, remember to come back in. And so we need you. I might be frantically emailing, where are you? And so don't do that to my heart. Make sure we are in so we can get that. And so for today, let's look and see what we have. We're going to talk about, it's so strange because we've been doing transformations and we did all that whole chapter. Normally we'd have a review game, put you in groups, see who's going to win. And then the next day we would take a test and then we would move on to the new topic. Well, in this world, we just finished the topic. Glad you enjoyed it. And now we're going to move on to some coordinate geometry, which kind of connects to transformational geometry. But we actually finished that unit. And so now we're going to do some coordinate geometry. And then we'll do a little graph theory and we'll call it a year. And so, but today we're going to talk about graphing circles. And the problems are in your book. There's a couple you have to graph. Most of them you don't. And so page 526, 1 to 12, 17 to 26, 35 to 37. This is assignment 121. And also on Khan Academy, we have warm-ups. Many of you have them all done, but some of you don't. And you haven't done the old ones, and it's going to hurt your grade. And so you want to make sure you get those done. And logic problems are due this weekend, tomorrow, today. Make sure I get them. Don't wait till Sunday night to give me everything. Some of you, I know why. Some are more successful than others. There's the midnight people. Not a good stage of life to be doing this at your age. It just gets worse as you get older. And some of you are up this morning, you're on the ball, you sent it right in. And then that's why sometimes we're a little more successful. And so these are things we need to learn. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. Okay? So we are going to talk about circles today. And we're going to review some things. And so this is notes number 121. Okay? Part of your homework is just finding the distance between 2 points. Remember, if we find the distance between 2 points, you have the origin 0, 0, and you have this point 2, -4. Well, guess what? My face is in the way. So, Mr. Nyson, get out of the way. So we can find the distance between 0, 0 and 2, -4, which is right here. Well, the thing is, this distance right here between these 2 points, how would we do that? What would we do? Isaiah? Yeah, we could use the distance formula, but what is really the distance formula? Megan? Yes, it's really just the Pythagorean Theorem. And the Pythagorean Theorem, if I was doing this, is this was my x value. This was my y value. And this is my distance. And so we used to say that the formula was x squared, if we could just find that, plus y squared equals the distance squared. But today we're going to discuss, is that the only point that if we did 2 squared plus, and it's -4, but -4 squared, if you put in parentheses, a negative times a negative is a positive. And so a negative squared is the same as a positive squared. So it didn't really matter if we wrote -4 or 4. And so we have 4 plus 16, which is 20. And so that distance is the square root of 20. Now, is that the only one that is that distance? Is that the only point? If we simplified this, this would be 2 square root 5. Is that the only point that that's 2 square root 5 away? Well, if I had my compass, and I could highlight this distance with my compass, put the compass, at each end of that blue segment, and put the center of your compass right here, where are other points that are that distance away? Square root of 20, 4 point something. There'd be, I could take this compass and I could put it up here. This would be also this distance away. This would be also that distance away. That would be, you'd go a little past that. It would go this way. It would go down. Whoa, that's like that. See, the compass, if I set it, I can't show you the compass, but see, there's all these points. And it'd be right there. And it hit this one. And without a compass, it's kind of hard to draw. What am I trying to draw here? What is that, Jerry? Yes, it's a circle. You try to draw a circle without a compass. And so there are infinitely many points that are 2 square root 5 away. And so what we have is not just the Pythagorean theorem, x squared plus y squared equals d squared, but if I wanted to show, show somebody this set of points, whoa, that's pretty bad, is really given by the equation x squared plus y squared, well, there goes the cat, equals r squared, where r is the radius of a circle. And this is the equation of a circle, which is nothing more than the Pythagorean theorem used many, 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 many times. So the definition of a circle is the set of all points. Hey, I'm trying to teach. Equidistant. Nobody wants to just see your tail. Equidistant from a given point called the center. Okay? And so very easy when it's just x squared plus y squared equals r squared. You take the square root of the number off by itself, and that's your radius of your circle. Okay? But we do have to talk about how do we move the circle and what happens if the circle's center is not at the origin. That is what we need to decide. And so how's that going to change things? So what happens if the circle's center is not at the origin? So let's talk about that. What happens to the equation if we move the center? And so let's say the center of the circle is 2, 3, which would be right about here. And it contains the point 4, 5, which would be right here. Well, that means that the radius of your circle, whoops, that one's going the wrong way. And so the radius of your circle is right there. Well, if that's the radius, I could swing this radius, and go around the circle. And so we're going to take our compass and we're going to make this circle. Okay? And so maybe I can draw a circle. Can I draw shapes? I don't think so. I think that's on the professional edition of Active Inspire that we only have at school. And so we're just going to highlight some of these. Well, if that point is on my circle, so is this point, so is this point, and so is this point. And so my circle would look like this. Whoa. And that is really bad. So maybe we should take it away. And so maybe if I just draw little arcs, my circle would look better. You try drawing a circle with a mouse. And so, but there's my circle. And normally, this length right here, if you're going 2 and 2, would be 2 square root 2. But how do we adjust this? Well, we want to adjust this by moving the center of the circle down here. So how would I do that? If I had my x value right here, normally it's x squared plus y squared equals r squared. But see, in order for that to work, we would have to slide this circle to the center. Well, by sliding it, the easiest way to slide a circle is not to slide the whole thing. It's to slide the center. And if I slid the center, I would move the x how many places? 2. Ooh, I only took a piece of it. And then how would I move the y? Subtract 3. And so for the x, to go back to the origin, I would subtract 2. And then for the y to go back to the origin, I would subtract 3. Now this is going to be the confusing part to your homework. Here is the equation of your line. Except then we can replace this. Well, this would be 2 square root 2 squared. You'd plug in the radius of the circle, but then you got to square it. And 2 square root 2 squared is just 8. And so you'd have this whole thing equal to 8. But notice, just because your center is 2, 3, you don't write x plus 2, and you don't write y plus 3. The equation is, if my center was at 2, 3, how do I move it back to the origin? Well, you subtract 2 and you subtract 3, and then it's equal to the radius squared, not cubed, squared, and that would equal 8. So we have a formula. Of course, math, we turn it into a lot of formulas that you could just plug into. And so the equation of a circle, if the center is at AB, that's an A. Oh, that's a bad A. And so if your center's at AB, then the equation of your circle is x minus A quantity squared plus the quantity of y minus B quantity squared equals your radius squared, which is just the distance between the center and one of the endpoints. Or if you know the diameter, then you got to find the midpoint, and then you got to find the length of the radius, and then you have to square it. And so all those things are part of your homework tonight. Okay? Or today. And so let's take a look at these last two problems. Well, let's look at these last two problems on the notes before we get our homework started. And these are going to be like the last 3 on your homework. And so it's going to say, find the equation of a circle that has radius 3, that has its center in the first quadrant. And so the first quadrant's right here. Remember, the quadrants go counterclockwise. And so the radius is 3, and it is tangent to the y-axis at 0, 2. So the point 0, 2 is right here. And the center is somewhere over here. And so if it's tangent, remember, Sarah, that the radius is always what to the point of tangency? What is that? Yes, it's perpendicular. And so if I have the line of tangency, which is this right here, the radius is going to be perpendicular to it. And so the radius of 3 is going to be right here. Whoa, that went way too far. And so the radius of 3 is going to be right there. And so the center of our circle is going to be point, we can call it point C, is going to be 3, 2. And so we don't really need the rest of the picture. I mean, we could sketch it like if we went radius 3 up and radius 3 down and radius 3 over. We could sketch our circle, especially if I had a compass. My circle would look like this. But if we just want the equation of the circle, the equation is x minus a. Well, it'd be x minus 3, because the a is the x-coordinate of your center. Quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared, because just the y-coordinate of your center, equals the radius squared. So that would just equal to 9. And so you can actually write 9 on your homework. You don't actually have to write 3 squared, because I might think that you think it's 6, and that wouldn't be good. And so that is the equation of my circle. And let's take a look at the second one here. Okay, I'll get myself out of this corner. And we'll come over here. And it says, find the equation of a circle whose diameter has endpoints 3, 2, and 7, negative 4. Well, 3, 2 is right here. And 7, negative 4 is right here. Well, that is the diameter of the circle. So somehow there's a circle that's like right like that, and that's not drawn very well. But if you know the diameter from there to there, you can find the midpoint, and the midpoint is the center of your circle. So a couple ways of finding the midpoint is, if I wanted to draw this neater, I could get my straight edge out and connect these 2 points. And I could easily tell that the midpoint is right there, and that's the center of my circle. And so the center of my circle would be 5, -1. Now the question is, how would I get that just from the numbers? Well, remember the midpoint is the what, Grant? Yeah, it's just the average of your x-coordinates, the halfway between. So what's halfway between 7 and 3? It's 5. And what's halfway between -4 and 2? Well, add them up. -4 plus 2 is -2. Divided by 2 would be -1. So that'd be the center of your circle. And see, I could have gotten that without a picture. But when in doubt, draw it out. And so that's my center. Now, how do I get the length of my radius? Well, one thing you could do is just draw a little, if you have it drawn out, you could just do a little mini triangle here. This is 2, this is 3, and 2 squared plus 3 squared, 4 plus 9 is 13, and my radius is the square root of 13. But if you didn't draw it out, remember, we wanted to find out how far apart are my x-coordinates. 7 and 3. And they are 4 apart. See, that would have been the x value for the big triangle. And so that'd be 4 squared. I thought that was a game we played at lunch. And so, we're back in the old days. So that'd be 4 squared. And then, how far apart are 2 and -4? 4 this way, 2 this way. Carson Clemens? Yes, they're 6 apart. And see, that would be this length right here. And that would be a 6. So if I was doing this, 4 squared plus 6 squared equals my distance squared. Remember that 36 plus 16 is 52, and that'd be the square root of 52, which is 4 times 13, which would be 2 square root 13. But remember, that was my diameter, and I would want the radius. And so that's why it's half of that. So you got to remember all that. It's a lot to remember. Wait, I forgot to take half. Oh, I did this, the endpoint. Ah. And so, but when we want the equation of a circle, remember, it is simply x minus the center point. And so maybe I shouldn't write on the grid. It's kind of hard to see. So we'll put it right here. So it's going to be x minus 5 quantity squared plus the quantity of y minus -1. But we're not really going to write that because minus a negative simply, Avery, is, yes, plus a positive. And so that's going to be y plus 1 quantity squared. And then it's equal to the square root of 13 squared. So what would that be? Christopher? Yes, 13. Christopher, you going to join us this afternoon? Please? And so we have that quantity of x minus 5 squared plus the quantity of y plus 1 squared equals 13 squared. Okay? So remember, our homework tonight is page 526, 1 to 12, 1726, 35 to 37. And we're going to give you some hints. So if we look at, on your homework page, doing the written exercises, when we do 1 to 12, it says just find the distance between 2 points. You can't, all you're doing is, how far apart are -2 and -2? 0. How far apart are -3 and 4? 7. That means they're 7 apart. You're done. This one, since these are none apart, how far apart are these? It says use the distance formula. Remember, we never liked it because the distance formula is the square root of the quantity of x1 minus x2 quantity squared plus y, the quantity of y2 minus y1 quantity squared. But you can do that in your head. How far apart are -6 and -7? They are 1 apart. So that is 1 squared. Then the question is, how far apart are my y's? -5 and -2. Jack, how far apart are those? 3. Yes, you are so wise. And so then my formula is just the Pythagorean Theorem. 1 squared plus 3 squared equals d squared. And so this is equal to the square root of 10. That's my answer. Okay? You can look the odd ones up in the back of the book. So you're doing 1 to 12. And then for 17 to 26, oh no. It says find the radius and the center of the circle. Well, what would the radius be? And what would the center be? Well, the radius, it's always equal to the radius squared. So what do you square to get 49, Eileen? Do we need another quiz over perfect squares? Oh, and so the radius would just be 7. I can just look at it. The radius here is square root 17. The radius here is c. The radius here is 6 over 5. How long did that take you? And then what's my center? Well, the center is a point. It's an ordered pair. You could write center c. And this is not a 3, it's a negative 3. But since there's no plus or minus with the y, the center is 0. Here my center is negative 7, positive 8. And you can go from there before I do them all. Now what do you do here? On these 4, you're just doing these 4 backwards. They give you the center and the radius, and you give me the equation. Don't forget to square the radius. The only 2 you have to graph are 25 and 26. Ooh, but 26, notice there's a less than or equal sign, and 25 had just an equal sign. Remember when we did like less than or equal signs? We like did sky and ground, shade below, shade above. So if we were doing less than or equal to, do you think you would shade inside the circle or outside the circle? What do you think, Vadim? Yes, inside the circle. And so it's always obvious who's not watching these videos to the end because I do the problems and Vadim told you the correct answer. And then you're like, I didn't know I was supposed to shade. Yeah, because you didn't watch the end of the video. And I caught you. And so make sure you have that. And then the very last 2 problems on the homework, or 3, sorry, 35 to 37. You can draw these if you want. When in doubt, draw it out. You can draw your center of 0, 6, and then pass it through the point 6, 14. But the thing is, you want to find the equation of the circle. So hopefully you have a compass and you can just draw a quick picture. But it just says sketch the graph, so it's just to help you. If you find the distance from the center through the point, it's 6 squared plus 8 squared. Ooh, this is a Pythagorean triple. Equals what squared? But guess what? You don't even need to take the square root because the answer is equal to r squared. So you can just set it equal to 100. And the equation is x squared plus, I forgot what this was. Was this a 6? Yeah. X squared plus the quantity of y minus 6 squared equals 100. Do it on your head. Okay? But here, this one's like the last problem on the notes. Problem 36. You got the center. No, it's not. You got to do the center again. It's kind of like this one. It's 37, the last one that has the diameter. And to find the middle, you can find the midpoint. What's halfway between negative 3 and 3? And what's halfway between 2 and 2? And that would be your center, the midpoint of the 2 endpoints. And so you should be able to get all that. And so please get your warm-ups done. Finish this. I helped you out with a lot of hints. Turn in your logic problems before Sunday night at midnight. And if it's a nice day and you're outside, please remember to come back in at 3:15. We need you. Otherwise, we might be going, where are you? I need you. And so hopefully you'll join us. Even if you haven't, join in for the Final Four. I'll get you a password and a username. And so I'll tell Kermie you said hi. Okay? So we miss all you guys. Bye-bye.